Okay, so a quick review on the publisher side of it. Basically, you open up a publisher, you create a page that's 12 by 18 or 18 by 12, your choice, 0 margins. You go find your images, you put them on there, and you create your composition the way you want. Make your images as big as possible. It's easier to Zentangle in bigger things. It's easier to watercolor in bigger objects. So the bigger they are, the better. Once you get those made in that composition and you like it, and you can also crop the pictures down to the edge of the paper too, if you want to do it that way. But once you get that done, open up another publisher file, and then go and copy and paste all those images into that new publisher. The new publisher, the paper is 8.5 by 11 because that's what comes out of a printer. And so then once you get into the new publisher file, all those images, you just spread them out onto pages so that when you print, all those little pieces are there and they're to scale. All right. So once you get that, then we're going to transfer it to the big paper. To the big tracing paper, and then that'll go directly onto the watercolor paper in another lesson. So in your portfolio should be a new piece of tracing paper. If not, you can trace on top of the old stuff that you had. It can be all messy and dirty. That's not a big deal. It's just whatever we transfer from the tracing paper to the watercolor paper that matters. So the first step, if you haven't already done this, I'm going to put my tracing paper underneath, and this may or may not show up well on the camera, but I'm going to get it so that it's underneath there, and as much of it is on the paper as possible. It's a pretty tight fit. But then I'm just going to go and make marks. Basically, I need a 12 by 18 rectangle on the tracing paper so that it matches the same size as the watercolor paper. So I just put it underneath and I made some marks, and now I'm going to trace that on, connect those lines so I can see where that line is. Okay, so if I did this right, those two lines are the edges of my paper, top and bottom, and from here I can start tracing the composition out and building the composition. So I started with the mountains. They're the first things I have. And I'm just going to try to hold it still. You can see where it's lined up on the left side over here because I want some things to go off. So I cropped it when I traced it. I've got it right on the edge of the tracing paper. And I'm just going to make simple lines. You guys will do a much better job of tracing. You just don't want to watch me trace this entire composition. That's going to be like watching paint dry. This side over here, it was too big for my paper, but I knew that I could finish the triangle and make that mountain do that. I am being very sloppy with my tracing. You guys will be a lot neater with your tracing. Okay, so there's my mountain and river. I got that done. Next, I'm going to put in the skier, because we all love to ski. Hope we had a good ski season this year. I can't wait to go skiing. Actually, I'm going to start with the clouds, because that's going to tell me where the skier gets lined up. All right, so I'm going to go through this really fast, really sloppy tracing. So one thing to look, when you're watching me do my composition, that'll make it better for you is if you have things that overlap, things that go off the page, like my mountains went off the page on the left side. This cloud up here on the right is going off the page. That makes for a better composition. It makes your eye, makes the viewer's eye work harder and their brain work harder to finish the picture that they know is there. So that's part of your job as an artist, to ask the question, not answer the question. That's enough of me being philosophical. How about that? All right. So there's that cloud. I'm not sure where these two clouds go. I'm going to do those in a second. I know this cloud though. One thing that'll help you in doing this is when you're doing your tracing to have your, if you can have your publisher open, and you can see where all your composition is and what went where. Okay, so there's those two clouds. Now I feel like I can get the skier in. Put him where nope, I want these two clouds again. Nope, I want the skier. This would be a whole lot easier if I could see the publisher composition that I made. But I can't, so that's okay. All right. So when you're picking objects to make, be sure you're picking objects that when you see the outline, it looks like the shape you want. Sometimes that doesn't work out so well. Like this is obviously a skier, even if we just see the outline. Sometimes the objects that you are picking, either in clip art or simple stuff, if you outline it, you don't see that shape anymore. And when I get done tracing this, I'll show you an example. This guy was originally really small, and he'd have been really hard to do a Zentangle in, so I had to really make him huge. So you want things that, like I was saying a second ago, that look like their shape. This is a student from last year that she's entangled some things. So even with an outline, we know that's a frog, or a leaf, or a bird. But if your object, think about it as an outline filled with entangles. If it's not going to look like what you want, then you need to move on to another object. I hope that makes sense. All right, so we got a couple more clouds to get in. So I want these clouds to be behind the mountains. So I'm only going to trace the parts that are in front of the mountain. I don't trace what goes behind it. And these clouds, I picked one cloud that I liked and I copied and pasted, and I just rearranged their scale from small to medium to big, you know, that sort of thing. I want to put a cloud here so that they'll give it depth if the skier is in front of a cloud. So we'll try that and see what it looks like. Again, I'm not drawing anything that goes behind the mountain or across the skier. All right. So there's my composition so far. I'm going to add one more thing because I'm just insane that way. Made some kayakers. I wasn't really sure which was the best size because of this pattern behind them. And I couldn't tell in Publisher how it was going to look. So I think I'm going to go with the biggest one just because it'll be easier to Zentangle. And he also goes in front of the mountain. So there's some more overlap, which is a good thing. Again, be a much neater tracer than me. That's nasty. All right, so I'm going to do a little bit of erasing just to make it easier for my brain to comprehend. Any part of the river that's in the kayak, I'm going to erase, try to remember what's what. Okay, so then I'm going to add one more thing. I'm going to add a horizon line over here. So there's a sky and a ground. And it'll make it easier. It'll make it look like a scenery that way. So now I have ground and sky and clouds and overlap and things going off. I've got different size scales. All right. So this is what you're trying to get to at this point right now. And then later, the next step after this is transferring it to the watercolor paper, but that's another lesson. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, hit me up on Remind. I'll try to answer them. If you need more supplies or I missed something in your portfolio, don't hesitate to let me know. I'll deliver. It's not a problem. And we'll keep you on track. So whenever you get back from wherever you're at in the world, you are with the rest of us, and you got a really cool project. Again, y'all be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.